I'm just making this video before the election results come in, because it doesn't make any difference which party wins. Both parties, the Labour or the Conservative in the UK, support Israel and will continue the war in Gaza. They may give a few, say, let's have a ceasefire, but basically they will continue the war economy. So it makes no difference at all which party wins. The only person who would make a difference would be George Galloway, because he has stopped the war. But the system is worked out that always the winning candidate will be supporting the war economy. And the UK war economy means an economy has a war, installs a puppet government in the other countries, and then that puppet government sells the resources to the UK. Because the one thing the zombie mass media do not tell the people is that the UK economy is not self-sufficient. The UK economy relies on exploiting the resources of another country, and it uses wars to create the advantage in these business deals by installing their own favorite leadership in different countries, or bribing them, or hook or crook, whatever means they can use to getting a puppet government in power. And so with the elections, the only candidates who are promoted are ones who will promote and agree with wars in the future. So it's no surprise, Stammer or Sunak, it doesn't matter. They will both continue the war in Gaza. And the only candidate who would stop the war in Gaza, George Galloway, maybe others, I don't know, but it's completely ignored, sidelined, and won't win for sure. Not because of his fault, but because no war. Because the UK economy cannot survive at all without war. What I'm saying is that it's not so much the money made in the actual war with the bombs and the guns and the troops. I mean, there is some profit from that, but after the war, it's about making a proxy country that can be controlled, that takes IMF loans, that accepts bribes, or raids its own government treasury to take the oil money it's received from a contract, and it's all done by offshore companies, and it's all very systematic and built into the system. You can't see it legally. Everything's clean, you could say. But the system for the UK economy, it relies on imported resources. It relies on printing money without it being backed up by gold. So that means just magic money. And this magic money is used to buy, with changed into US dollars, buys oil from the Middle East and other places. But let's concentrate on the Middle East for the moment. And so other countries also want to do the same thing. They want to print money and buy things like magic. But by having a war economy, you can ensure that the exchange rate is high, so that when the US changes its money into US dollars, it gets a good rate. It can buy a lot of oil, but you get the so-called third world, or poor, or I call them more the exploited world. and that their exchange rate is set so that they can't buy much with their local currency. So this election just goes by no change. But there is a change in the world coming, and I would predict that this government won't be able to survive the 4 years, because the Middle East, the dynamics of the Middle East is changing, and we won't be able to get the resources. We won't be able to buy them at the same rate. But what I mean is, most likely, sooner or later, the oil export from the Middle East is going to be disturbed, and with the wars coming, it's probably going to be double overnight. And with the US deficit, and the US dollar is going to be shaking. So we're going to most likely the economies, European economies, US economies, will go into deflation. The economies will collapse, because war economy without winning a war. So you look at Israel, and the US are saying, don't go into war with Lebanon. What's this? The US is saying don't go into war. They didn't say that Saddam Hussein. They didn't say that to Colonel Gaddafi. They didn't say, oh, let's not go into war with Colonel Gaddafi. No, it's Hillary Clinton was frothing at the mouth with, we got him, but what the US mean, they cannot win the war against Lebanon. In fact, Lebanon will be destroyed, Israel, both will be destroyed within a war. The US cannot win the war. I mean, it's not the US, but the US proxy. Right. So there was a comment coming out on social media that the US has said, with the Houthis, they're facing the biggest challenge since World War II. To put this into normal language, this means the US cannot defeat the Houthis. And so with Saddam Hussein, they built up a big army and took a few months, and then they just wiped him out. But they cannot do this with the Houthis, with Yemen, because there's neighboring countries involved. And it's not just a question of one country. So it's not just Lebanon. Now Iran is saying, if Israel attacks Lebanon, Iran is going to obliterate Israel. So there's a number of countries. So Israel has lost its military advantage, and Israel was only communicating with its neighbors through violence. It wasn't talking on an equal basis. It's just, I'm going to smash you. You've got to respect me, because I will just smash you to pieces. But now Israel has got to start talking on an equal level with its neighbor, and it doesn't want to. So the US is trying to restrain Israel because it cannot win. So the UK election, it may have passed. It may look like they will be drinking their champagne, but when the UK economy crashes because it has been built on a war economy, then it won't be so easy for the winners of this election. And you can see that they will regret, they will wish they were never in the office, because the whole history of the UK, the last 200 or 300 years, has been, we've been building up our economy not through self-sufficiency, not through standing on our own legs, but through the slave trade, through India. We got raw cotton from India. We took it back to the UK, we made clothes and we sold it back to India. And the Indians disagreed. We sent the British troops in to make them agree. Africa, we took over the mines, the Cecil roads in South Africa with the diamonds, and the troops were there to ensure the business. It was a war economy. It was the business done with the soldiers there. So we've got a change in the world, but the British people are just carrying on. They're put their vote here, put their vote there, and they're voting in the way that they are told. They are told to vote for either one candidate or the other candidate. So there's not a free vote. It's the media are telling the people where they have to vote. So it's not. You could say that's how the elections work in this country, in every country. This is slightly better than a dictatorship or a monarchy, where the UK used to be run by a monarchy, but then hundreds and hundreds of years ago, we brought in the Parliament. Came in, there was a 9-year war, and the king lost his head. The Parliament took over. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but the point is, we move forward from a monarchy to an election, because there's a lot of improvements, a lot of pluses. Better than an election is better than a dictatorship. I mean, you've got the dictatorships in China, North Korea, Saudi Arabia. The people, they don't get a chance to express their opinion. So in the UK, the election lets people express their opinion. The people feel happy, and this is a positive side. But of course, the outcome is already worked out. That there always is leaders who support wars. Millions of people have to die, and we have to have the advantage in the business, and the soldiers are there to ensure that we get what we need for the economy. So now what we need to do is we need to build a self-sufficient UK where we don't need to exploit Africa. Africa is rich, but we steal its wealth. But this is coming to an end because the military advantage of the UK and the US is finishing. This is clear from what is happening in the Middle East. So the problem is with Gaza at the moment, but it's the whole Middle East has many different issues that all have to be sorted out. You get a ceasefire in Gaza, but what about the oil embargo against Iran? That also has to go. We can no longer tell Iran what to do. Those days are over. And Yemen has a north and a south. Yemen has to be united. We have to stop selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia attacked Yemen. Yemen attacks the ships in the Red Sea. Yes, Yemen is coming out to support Gaza. But all the issues need to be sorted out in the Middle East. If you just do one, it's gone are the times when we can start to go back to how it was before October the 7th. It's the military balance has changed. So there's two ways forward. We can put our head in the sand, carry on with the new UK leader, and pretend there's no problem, and sooner or later the US dollar is going to crash when major wars break out in the Middle East, which doesn't look good. Or we could start to stop selling arms to Saudi Arabia and then work on getting a self-sufficiency in energy and in all respects, in food and in energy, and give these Arab countries the economic independence. They've been given political independence, but not economic independence. So the whole area, it's not a question of just keeping the Ghazians in a little prison. And other countries were trying to make changes in the Arab Spring. You look at Egypt, for example. Now they have a military leadership in Egypt. After the Arab Spring, there was some change. Different governments came in, and now the US are giving military aid to Egypt, and it's just, it's not really solving the problem. It's just disturbing the countries. And the Arab countries need to be given their independence, their economic independence, and we need to find our own energy sources. And the English people have some ingenuity and some creativity. They will be able to work out the problems, but we need to stop just printing money, starting wars, bringing in merchandise made in sweatshops from China, and bring back the manufacturing. Or we can just wait for the Third World War and everything's destroyed, and then we can build up. But it's be much better that we stop exploiting the world now and change the world gradually in the phases and make sure nobody suffers, or we just follow what the new leaders of the UK will be doing. So it is not a surprise that George Galloway has got nowhere within the election, and the election hasn't taken place. But we know from past experience that the only people allowed to win elections are those who will support the system, support the war economy. So the solution is to give different places around the world their economic independence. There are a lot of places. The African continent was given political independence, but it was never given economic independence. And the Middle East is about to catch on fire seriously, and the only solution is not to get involved and to send more weapons. Iran is not our enemy. There's nothing. Iran doesn't want a war, and Iran has the right to sell their oil to anyone they want in whatever currency they want. And gone are the days of the US dollar dominance. Is about to finish. The US dominance of selling oil in dollars. So it's better to change it voluntary in advance rather than waiting for the big disasters in war and then having to change. And so getting a ceasefire is really just the tip of the iceberg. Is just the very first step. But the ceasefire also has to go further. Israel have to start withdrawing from a lot of the area that they took over in the past. It has to start really being a lot humble, or it won't survive. And it's just there's a few Arab countries now, but there are more Arab countries who have puppet governments who sooner or later are going to rise up and join their Arab neighbors. I heard a comment about, oh, Iran is going to start influencing the Jordan to bring down the Jordan royal family. But if these countries have so like unstable leadership that they can just be someone can come in and topple the government, then it's up to the people to change that government to make it get a stable government that cannot be toppled, by foreign influence. In other words, some of the Arab leadership um, are just puppets of foreign countries. I mean, you have the military in charge in Egypt. I mean, it wasn't what the people in the Arab Spring, that wasn't their target to put the military in control.